Hey folks, Paul Essery here, and I'm delighted today. My two guests are Keith Olsen and Mike Stryker from Hyde Park Ninjas. Guys, thanks for making a bit of time to come and have a chat with us about what you're doing. I'm very grateful that you've taken time to do that because I know that you're busy doing because you've both got a couple of businesses, and also what you're doing is in a different world, which is I find quite intriguing. So the kind of upland world is really interesting. So thank you for coming to talk about that. And I think my listeners will find that interesting as well. So just to kick things off, do you want to just introduce yourselves and tell us a bit about Hyde Park Ninjas and what that is?
Yeah, so we're the Hyde Park Ninjas. We're both lifelong martial artists. And, during the COVID times, our schools and academies were closed down. So we started to dive into other projects, and that's what brought us to the metaverse. So that's kind of how we got started with this.
Okay. And Keith?
Yeah, and yeah, just like Mike said, lifelong martial artist, and competed heavily, and um, now just teaching full time. But yeah, we got into this during the that time with the metaverse and bringing martial arts to the metaverse, which has kind of been our mission and our goal. Um, and it's really evolved into some really interesting things. Like you said, it's new and we're learning every day new things about it. So it's been an interesting ride.
Yeah. And that I love the idea that you're taking martial arts, which is about people beating each other up, into the metaverse, which is about a kind of a completely different way of thinking about the world, isn't it? So tell us about Hyde Park Ninjas. I mean, tell us about what that is and what it does, and how does that fit in the metaverse, particularly for people, because there'll be quite a few people that are listening that perhaps don't understand what that world's about. So give us a sense of that.
Yeah, so it's been kind of an interesting journey. We got in through like diving into cryptos and stuff, like I said, during COVID, and we started to develop our initial goal was to develop like a martial arts community, just network with people all over the world and stay in tune with martial arts. We were doing some Zoom stuff with our students, which isn't the best type of training for martial arts in general when you're working on self-defense and connection. So we said, let's do something with it. We're trying to make a positive of it. We develop a community. We started building it through the Upland Metaverse and just started connecting with people. And then one thing led to another, and we took, some of our teams in our cities, and we started to develop a martial arts story. We've got a comic book series that we run. It's called the Hyde Park. Actually, I'll just show it to you. This was our first one that we released at the Upland event in Vegas. Is the
Wow.
Heroes of Hyde: Legend of Marie,
Mhm.
and this is our first book, and we've got other ones already in the works and planned out for 10, 20 years going. So we have a creative writer that's fantastic. They're also have been a lifelong martial artist. And then we have another endeavor that we got into with a card game. If you're familiar with games like Magic the Gathering, those type of games, it's similar to that, but it's all based around martial arts. So it kind of brings the fun of martial arts into a really interactive, fun card game.
Yeah.
And along with that, we've also started building a Web3 video game as well. So we're working really hard on some teammates that we met through Upland in this metaverse project over the last couple of years, and it's really just expanded from making this small community, just networking with people, and now we've got all these really cool things going on. So. In my opinion, the COVID times with shutdowns for small businesses, that was it was a really tough, trying time for all of us. And, curveballs are thrown at you in life all the time. And, you got to do something good with it. So that's kind of where we went with it.
Yeah. And Keith, how did you get together with Mike, and how did you and Mike come up with the ideas? I mean, just give us a sense of how that worked.
Well, that's why we've known each other. Mike has known me since I was a little kid, and as we got older, we became friends and started this process. But how did we come with that? We didn't really know where we were going when we started. We just knew we wanted to bring martial arts online, and uh, in metaverse is kind of a term that's hasn't been it's not taken well now. Like metaverse people are kind of turned off by the word, but so I just kind of use like online presence now or digital presence. But we just met every day. We didn't know where we were going to go with it, and eventually, like Mike just described, we've kind of landed on these three main areas of developing our storyline through our comic book, and then using our digital game, our online game, and card game for other ways for other ways for people to interact with our
Yeah.
storyline and our products and stuff like
And
that. So
Keith, one of the things I'm interested in is how you came up with the idea to take what is something that's very physical into the metaverse. I mean, how did you make, because that's a big jump. I mean, I would never have come up with that idea. I mean, tell us about how that came about.
well, I can't speak for Mike, but for myself, that's all I know. All I know is martial arts. I was born into it. That's all I've been doing. Training, it's been my only job, my only career. So there was no question for me, and it was just like, well, I got to figure out a way to bring martial arts, online and have a digital presence there. So for me, it was a no-brainer because I didn't really I have no other avenues of or skills or career paths or anything like that. So it was a no-brainer for me.
Cool. And
Yeah,
in
mine's really the same too.
Okay. And in terms of the way you've done that, so I think listeners will be able to imagine what martial arts is. I mean, we've all seen the movies, we know what that is. Just talk us through what that means in the metaverse. I mean, you've talked about the game and the cards, but just give us a sense of at a practical level, what does that mean if you if you to go into the metaverse or go into Upland? I mean, what does that mean for people that might want to do that? I mean, just talk us through that. Give us a practical sense of what it feels like.
So I guess a lot of it is because martial arts is such a physical activity, you're
Yeah.
interacting with
Yeah.
partners and stuff. So when you take it into the metaverse, unless you're using something like a video game, there's not like any type of physical connection unless you're using like avatars, different things in like a game or a card game where you're playing out scenarios. You've got this, these characters or these techniques on a battlefield and you're playing against another player. So it's different, but you can still share in the martial arts experience in different ways. So it kind of brings martial arts to the forefront and spreading the word of martial arts. And then there's a lot of people that we connect with, and we've been doing this for 2 years now. And I've had players within our community that are doing like UFC pick'ems with us. They follow the UFC fights, and they send us messages. Hey, what martial arts should I get involved in? They're asking about different arts, and then you hear back a few weeks later. Hey, SC Kicker, thank you so much for the recommendation. I've been training. We had a guy that was training to where did he go to? Oh, he was traveling to Thailand.
Right.
So he said, "What should I practice? I'm going to be over there." I said, "Well, Thailand is known for Muay Thai. I would find a good Muay Thai school. Be selective on the school that you're at." But and he went and he dove into Muay Thai for the 3 months he was there, and he came back stateside, and he's still training to this day. And it's
Wow.
really great to hear those stories because where we are, physically, our locations where we live, we're able to share martial arts with our community. And it's really great to be able to touch people in a different area. And now we've got people in different areas. So, if we start to travel around, we have people we can connect with and train in the real world, even though we met in kind of a digital virtual world. And, for us, I think that was the main goal was to spread martial arts. And, that's what we're going to continue to do. We just happen to be doing some other cool things because we really started this out of a passion for martial arts, and we have a lot of fun with it. And there's been a lot of like trials and tribulations. Speaking for myself, I am not a techie guy. I'm a lot older than Keith, and there's so much I've learned through this journey with computers and like what we're doing now, the streaming. We run a podcast as well for our community. And I had to go take streaming courses because I had no idea what the heck I was doing.
Yeah.
We would get on and we would actually think we were on live and we weren't even on. And, we'd have to restart over and, all the
Yeah.
fun stuff. And then, I remember we were doing this one stream and my cameras wouldn't work, my audio, and, I'm yelling to the other room for my kids to come in and help me. And, live on screen, they're helping me put my cameras up. And, it's been really fun. It's been really fun. It's something different than what we do in real life, at the physical side of it. And it's just been a learning experience in so many different ways. And again, I'm a lot older, so computers were just kind of hitting when I was a kid. We had the old dial up and stuff where you'd actually hear the phone dial tone and
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
And then the,
Yeah.
the computer would come on. And, I think I remember I had an uncle that was pretty well off and he always had the new up to date, technology and stuff. And he had internet and he was reading the newspaper, on the internet. I was like, oh, that was the coolest thing. And as a kid, I delivered newspapers. So, I was able to relate to it. And it was such a different presence. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I guess Keith, you've been mentoring Mike, have you? Because you're I mean, what people would say is a digital native. I suppose you've grown up with it, haven't you?
Actually, that's not the case. I'm
No.
the least tech savvy in my family as well. So if it wasn't for my wife around me, I wouldn't be able to function. Um, we help each other out in different ways for sure.
Yeah. And in terms of the journey that you've been on, I mean, like I say, you've created a really interesting proposition, and multifaceted actually as well. I mean, a number of different dimensions to it, which is quite interesting. So it's not just one thing, it's multiple things. Tell us about some of the challenges that you've had to deal with on that journey, because it can't have been easy.
No, and we're right in the middle of some challenges right now. And but that's I think that's where our martial arts training takes over. I mean, martial arts is about learning to persevere and grind through and push through. So it's nothing new to us, but some of the challenges putting the right team together. We have an awesome team, very creative, um, and that's something for our own academies. It's important to have a good team. And then for this project, we went through a long process of putting together the right team to help us build all these projects because we definitely cannot do that on our own.
Yeah.
Um, I think the technology hurdles have been difficult for us. Right now, our hurdle is actually artwork.
Okay.
So getting enough, we want all of our artwork for our comics and our card games and even our digital assets to be authentic and done, not done with AI. And that has been really challenging to find the right artist and then to and then they need to have the time and abilities to do what we're asking. So I would say those are some of the main ones right now. And then the everything just takes longer than what you think it
Yeah.
does. Everything just it's just you have your goals and your deadlines, and so I have a better understanding for people that are either doing startups or just running a company in general. Things just take longer than
Yeah.
what
And
you
it's
want.
harder
So
than you imagine, isn't it?
and it's harder. There's more hoops to jump through than what you thought. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a lot, but we're getting there one step at a time.
Yeah, cool. And when you look back on that journey, I mean, presumably you've both learned different lessons from it. I mean, give us a sense, perhaps Mike first. I mean, give us a sense of what you've learned from the journey, because it must be very difficult building a digital business to building a face-to-face martial arts training in the dojo type business. I mean, just tell us what you've learned from that experience.
Yeah, there's been a lot of lessons learned. And looking back, and me and Keith talked about this at length, as we've been on this journey. And I honestly wouldn't change anything that we did because I think everything happens for a reason and it gets you to the next step, right? In the process. And I think one of the biggest things it's like when Keith was talking a little bit about building the team, finding the right team. And,
Yeah.
we were dealing with different age brackets. I'm definitely the oldest on the team. Keith's kind of in the middle. And then we have some guys that are, younger, but we've known them for a long time through martial arts. And sometimes the personalities can be very different in the individuals.
Yeah.
So, I would say that's like been one of the biggest challenges is maybe getting everybody to understand how each other works. And me and Keith are very involved with working with people day to day, face to face. And we meet a lot of different people, different personalities. And, so we can understand each of the individuals, from their perspective. But sometimes you get, two team members that don't have that same perspective.
Yeah.
And there's a little bit of like oil and water, there's a little bit of a clash in trying to mend and get those personalities to work together the right way in a positive way. So I would say that's probably been one of the biggest challenges I think personally, just watching that from an older age. And I think we've learned through this process a lot of patience
Yeah.
because things don't happen, especially with the Metaverse project in general, like Upland. This stuff is all so new, so cutting edge. It can change on a dime, and you just got to be able to go with the punches and be patient and be patient and be patient. And just as it starts to, as the technology catches up and we catch up to the technology, it all kind of streamlines together. But patience and just getting people to work together. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs would identify with that, certainly. And Keith, what would you say the lessons are from your perspective? I mean, what have you learned from the last few years?
What have I learned? I just enjoy. I've learned, about myself. I just enjoy creating. I enjoy, being an entrepreneur and owning a business. And I've really enjoyed. These are all brand new things to me. I wasn't a card game player. I wasn't a big video game player. I wasn't really. Uh, I am now. I'm getting into the card game. I'm getting into these things. So, but I just love. I've learned that, I really love creating. I love putting together a team that can make something awesome. I mean, that's our goal is. And then patience is a good one. Um, tech, I think that boils down to just always keep learning,
Yeah.
right? Especially nowadays, things are moving so fast, and I've learned that in my other businesses as well. You have to always be learning, um, and so don't don't get too complacent or stuck in your ways. You got to
Yeah.
keep pushing forward to learn the new stuff that's coming out. So I would say that's one of the major lessons. It's
Yeah.
just don't sit still. Keep moving
Yeah, it's
forward.
kind of a never-ending journey, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
And seeing as you've mentioned that idea of a never ending, I mean, tell us about where you're going. I mean, you've developed a really interesting proposition in a very new environment. It's very exciting, and you've obviously been on a very interesting journey. Tell us about where you're going, and give us a sense of, what you're planning on doing over, say, the medium to long term, next, maybe 5 to 10 years. What is it you want to achieve? What sort of impact you want to have? I mean, give us a sense of the direction.
And it's hard to say because the projects that we're on right now, like the comic book series is a prime example. It's nothing's going to change with that. It's just going to keep getting better over time, as we get new series that come out and different characters. And, long term, obviously the video game, that's going to take a little bit longer to put together. And I,
I, I'd like to
I
add
don't
in
know.
there
Yeah.
um, that our passion of martial arts and sharing martial arts, getting people to because it's changed my life, and I know it's changed Mike's life. We talked about it forever, and so creating a martial arts world, where people can get in and maybe they find a character or a comic book or
Yeah.
a character in the card game that they relate to, and maybe that inspires them to start martial arts or something like that. So I just think creating a martial arts world story, however you want to look at it, that people can kind of dive into, and hopefully that kind of spreads martial arts, everywhere. So that's kind of the passion and um, the the goals that we have. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the technology within Upland, like one of the things that we just acquired recently is we have a little cafe in our community,
Oh,
and
wow.
there's a little theater in it, so you can
Right.
advertise stuff in there. And, who knows with the way that the theaters are going to work, are we going to be able to share stuff from our academies, like live time, where our community can take a stop over into our little cafe in the metaverse and go in and watch, some live stream action from our academies or tournaments or,
Yeah.
the sky's really the limits. And, based on the way the technology works, some of that is going to dictate it going forward. So I think we'll have to constantly like adapt, to what's going on with it and just keep, like he said, keep sharing the word of martial arts. That was our original goal. We've really never deviated from that. The only thing we've deviated from is the ways that we share. We have all these different avenues of how we can share martial arts to make it exciting. And, with bodies in general, we have all different age groups. And I think everybody can do martial arts, if you do it safely and have fun. But man, for someone that maybe doesn't have the physical abilities to do it, something like a card game or a video game, it's another outlet for them to, still take part in martial arts. Because I know people that have been in martial arts and have had injuries due to accidents and stuff, and they can no longer participate. But this gives them an outlet to participate, connect with martial artists. And I was actually just talking to a gentleman last night that, had an injury and he can't compete anymore. He was a pretty avid competitor and did martial arts for a long time. And, one of the things that he misses is the actual community going into the academy and networking and being around martial arts peoples because they have sometimes just a different mindset. And he said that was one of the things that he really missed is being around that community and the comfort of it.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? People often think that it's about, I mean, not just with martial arts, but people think it's about the sport. And of course, at one level, it is about the sport, be it martial arts or badminton or athletics or whatever. But actually, the community bit is a lot more important than you would perhaps imagine, isn't it? The relationships that people build, the friendships, the ability to interact together. I mean, it seems to me, I mean, somebody said to me, I had this lovely quote the other day where somebody said, "You're either community or you're commodity. Which do you want to be?" And I thought that really nails it. And I think you guys have nailed that. And what I think is lovely about it is that you've taken a physical activity and turned it into a virtual activity. And I think that's wonderful. So, I mean, guys, what a great proposition. Thanks for coming on and talking about the podcast, what you're doing on the podcast. I mean, it's fantastic, and good luck going forward. I mean, like you were saying, I mean, I think the journey could go on for quite a while, so you'll have plenty to keep you occupied for,
Oh,
you know.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
And thank you so much for having us on. Really appreciate your time as well, and it's been a pleasure.
yeah,
Likewise,
this was really awesome. We appreciate it.
fantastic, guys. Good luck going forward, and I'm sure we'll come across each other again.
Sounds great. All
Absolutely.
right. Thanks, Paul. Have a great day, everyone.
You too. Cheers. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.